Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the Ground and Pound Cast. It is me, your host of the Ground and Pound Cast, the world's okayest jiu-jitsu blue belt, Vince, and I'm here joined with the future teller, the soothsayer of the MMA universe, Nostradamus. We like to call him Roy for short. Tell everyone hi, Roy.
Welcome, people. I have seen a fight card.
Yes, we saw a fight card last night that only had two that made it to the judges' decisions, two fights that made it to the judges. We had a lot of finishes. We're going to be talking about these. We had UFC Fight Night, Oliveira versus Gamrot. That is Charles Oliveira taking on Gamrot. That was a really fun fight. At least I thought it was fun. I don't know if it's fun for Gamrot because he didn't get a whole lot of offense off, did he?
No, Gamrot thought in the beginning, he was like, this isn't a big deal. I'm going to wrestle him. That didn't work out so well. You notice in the second round, he just tried to stand and box. He didn't go for a takedown.
Right. The only little bit of offense he had was in the beginning of the first round. He ends up shooting a takedown. And I heard the commentators say, oh, he made that takedown look easy. It was an easy takedown. If you watch a lot of Charles Oliveira fights, it's not so much. He
likes to go down.
Yeah, it's not that he's really easy to take down. It's like, you're going to take me down? Okay, you know how dangerous my guard game is? So it's he accepts it. So that's kind of what happened. He accepted a takedown. Gamrot shoot on him, and Oliveira's like, I bet. And he goes to his back, starts working into omoplata, attacking his Gamrot's left arm a good bit, and was basically just working him, started taking his back, ends up taking his back, body lock, going for a rear naked choke, just controlled him for the rest of the round after that takedown. And
yeah, I got to admit, the last thing in the world I would try to do is take down Charles Oliveira because he's going to let it happen, and he's going to grab a joint and mess it up. That guy has 21 submission wins in his MMA career.
He has the world record, or UFC record, for the most finishes, period, in UFC history, and also the most, if I'm not mistaken, most submission wins in UFC
16.
history.
16 inside the UFC, 21 in his professional career total.
Yeah, this dude is totally not someone you want to just tinker around with on the ground. And so the second round happens. Gamrot decides he wants to box with him. He doesn't want any part of that ground game. Oliveira ends up getting him in a clinch, is able to take his back, gets on a body lock, and eventually works in what on paper is called a face crank. It was one of those rear naked chokes where people sink in their chin so they don't get choked, and you just keep squeezing and it pulls your head. It's a rear naked choke / face crank, but it was 98% domination by Charles Oliveira. This is the Charles Oliveira that we like to see. He's a very popular guy. People love this guy. And he's had a handful of losses that us fans have had to deal with lately, but this is the type of Charles Oliveira that made us fans of his in the first place. This was an excellent performance. As a jiu-jitsu fan myself, this is a great display of high-level jiu-jitsu in MMA, and I'm just thoroughly impressed by his performance.
What I really appreciated was in the second round where he channeled his inner Michael Chandler and went for the dump slam.
Yeah.
You don't see Charles do that very often, but he made it effective.
Well, he did fight Chandler twice, so maybe he picked up a few things from him along the way. Those were exciting fights, and I actually called it whenever they fought the second time, and I had some of my friends saying that they think Chandler's going to win. I said, look, Chandler's one of those guys who always puts on really exciting losing efforts to good opponents. Every time. I'm like, he's going to make it fun. He's going to make it competitive. It's going to be exciting, but he's going to lose. That's how it always is, and sure enough, that's what happened.
It's always the story. Lowest fight IQ of anyone I've ever seen.
But he's super fun to watch.
Yes.
So, what do you think is next for Charles Oliveira?
So I think that Oliveira is going to get his wish and fight Max Holloway. They got unfinished business. Let's see that fight. Put up the BMF.
Yeah, not long after the fight happened, after the finish happened, Max Holloway took to social media and was saying, let's do this BMF. And I think that's pretty much the only option you have for him because he's too good.
The one downside to it is Oliveira said that he would like that to be his last fight.
Right.
And if he gets it, I would hate to see the BMF go unclaimed just because he won and hung up the gloves.
I mean, that could have been the case whenever Dustin Poirier fought for it. An event I was at, by the way. But it didn't happen because Max Holloway was able to defend on that night. But, I mean, the BMF title is one of those titles that kind of floats around anyway. It's not tied up to any specific weight division. So if it bounces around, if someone wins it and then retires and it pops up some other time later in another weight class or whatever, it's not really too big of a deal for me. I think it would be a fun fight to watch. These two have fought just once, if I'm not mistaken, right? I might have to double check that. And Charles Oliveira won also, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a chance for Max to get his redemption like he did against Dustin Poirier.
No, Holloway won.
Oh, Holloway won that one. Can't keep track. These two guys are veterans. They've had so many fights overall that I can't keep track of how all those went. How did that one go? Was it a decision? Because I know Oliveira's hard to finish off.
Knockout, really? Round 1, 1:39.
You got to be kidding me. When did that happen? What year?
That was 2015. So both have come a long way since
10 years ago. I think that's when I went through a spell where I wasn't really following it as closely. I'm going to have to go back and watch that. Interesting. So, maybe Charles Oliveira wants some revenge. He wants to get, that win back. So, I think that this is really the only option you have for Charles Oliveira because he's too good to just keep as a journeyman, just facing other up-and-comers. But it's kind of clear he's not quite good enough to be the class champion. Whether it's Islam Makhachev or Ilia Topuria, these guys just take him out every single time. So I think the BMF title is really the only logical place to put him towards. The only logical belt to put him towards, I should say. So how do you think that fight would go? Max Holloway did win, as you pointed out, 10 years ago, but they've come a long way in those 10 years. So
I wouldn't put it past Oliveira to go out there and box with him.
If it went that way, Max would win that fight, in my opinion, because Charles Oliveira's boxing.
Bronx always surprises me. And it is Du Bronx. It's not the Predator. Even the UFC commentators didn't recognize that dumb nickname.
Right. But, I mean, Charles Oliveira, as good as he is, and as good as his striking has gotten compared to how he started, you're still talking about Max Holloway, who is probably top 3 boxers in UFC history, in my opinion. So I don't think that would be a good strategy. If he wants to fight Max Holloway, he needs to try to get it to the ground. Max Holloway has been finished a few times by submission. He is not known for grappling. If Oliveira could get him to the ground, it's going to be his game. If he wants to stand and box, it's going to be Max's game. So,
yeah, but Oliveira always likes to test himself. Like he said for this fight before accepting with Gamrot, he was prepared for a striking match with what's his name? Fiziev. So he wasn't planning on going out there and getting a submission. The opportunity just presented itself, and he couldn't say no.
But still, it is Max Holloway. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes. I'm surprised that Max isn't fighting Jake Paul. There's enough of a weight difference for Paul to accept it.
Right. Now, before we jump into the next fight on this card that I want to talk about, I'm going to veer off just a little bit. Something that happened earlier in the card between the first and second of the main card fights tonight. Jose Aldo, even though he wasn't fighting tonight, he came out to the middle of the ring, laid down his gloves, and he retired. So I think we need to take a moment to really acknowledge the incredible career that Jose Aldo has had in the UFC and just MMA in general. You talk about WEC, all the stuff that he's done for the sport. The dude is an absolute legend, and I think we all need to, pay our respects and give credit to one of the greatest that we've ever seen ever come through the sport, laying down his gloves and calling it a career, an incredible career. One of the winningest champions that we've ever had coming from the WEC. He comes into the UFC. He wrecks house for a little while. And, of course, it didn't end so well whenever he fought Conor McGregor, and that was the start of the McGregor era. But before that, absolute legend. So this guy going into that fight against Conor McGregor was 25-1. So he was a champion in WEC, and when WEC got absorbed into the UFC, his title just carried over, and he ended up getting 10 title wins. He was 25-1 going into the Conor McGregor fight, and that's where, his era ended. But leading up to that point, I mean, how many people do you know could really say that they had that many wins, that many title wins with that kind of record at that time against some of the very best competition? Really just an absolute legendary career this man had. So
absolutely, and he never turned down any fights. He let everyone know you can come get it, and he brought it to the best of his ability every time.
Right. And he's had a very long-lasting effect on fighters today and how they view him and view his skills. So just kind of goofing off on Facebook the last few days, I've been seeing a lot of these clips where they're interviewing fighters in UFC, and they ask them like, which fighter has the best chin, who had the most power, who has the best grappling, who has the best leg kicks, and they go through like this long list of, it's like try to make the perfect fighter, and they all list the different people for those categories. And almost all the categories, it bounced around a lot. It would have like this person for power, but another one for power, depending on who you ask. But every single fighter that I saw in all those clips listed Jose Aldo for leg kicks, every single one of them. So
Yep.
shows the long-lasting, effect he had on his legacy when it comes to his skill set. So, side note, I think Edson Barboza is probably a strong number 2 if you were going to talk leg kicks, but that's a whole different rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah.
So, all right, I think it's time to move on to the next fight on this card. You have Davison Figueiredo against.
Before we move on, I wanted to address one other thing.
Okay.
If your name is Oliveira and you're on a fight card headed by another guy named Oliveira, do not miss weight by 8 pounds, because I saw that headline and could not believe Oliveira would miss weight.
Actually, Charles Oliveira, if I'm not mistaken, has missed weight a handful of times, but not by 8 pounds.
Yeah, that just absolutely blew my mind. Simon, I don't know how to pronounce it. The wrong Oliveira dominated that fight with his weight advantage all the way till Licata got him in an armbar.
Well, I guess it ended the way it should have ended then. You're going to miss weight by that much. I don't think you deserve the win, period. So
I agree.
But back to the main card, we had the co-main of this event. You have Davison Figueiredo going against Montel Jackson. I was a little confused at the judges' scorecards because it was a split decision win for Figueiredo, and I watched this fight, and it was 2 very clear, easy to score rounds for Figueiredo, and then one that was a toss-up for Jackson. So I'm thinking 29-28 easy for Figueiredo, if not 30-27 for Figueiredo, and it was a split decision. One judge gave it 29-28 to Jackson. Did you see it that way, Roy?
The way I saw it, Jackson looked timid throughout the entire fight, especially in the 3rd round. Figueiredo fought the whole thing like he knew he had the judges in his pockets, and he just had to make it believable. I was not impressed with this fight.
Well, I don't think it was really a bad performance for Figueiredo. If you're not impressed by the fight, I think that really comes down to Jackson's. I think Figueiredo actually pulled off a pretty good game plan. He mixed up his striking, grappling. He controlled it in all areas. Like I said, I had it 2 easy rounds for Figueiredo. One round that was probably a toss-up. So I just don't really know where the one judge was getting 29-28 Jackson from. Did you see
Personally, I thought it was 30-27 Figueiredo.
Right. That's why I said it was 2 clearly for him, and one that's a toss-up. Like I could honestly see 30-27 Figueiredo before seeing 29-28 Jackson. So I really don't understand those scores. 2 of the judges did give it to Figueiredo 29-28 though, so
there's 2 judges who are legitimate judges, and the 3rd one who has, habits we don't discuss. And that person seems to come out and judge every time that they have a fight event.
His name's probably Mike Bell. All right, moving down the card, we had the other decision of the night. We had Joel Alvarez going against Vicente Luque. I don't know if there's really a whole lot to say about this fight.
Alvarez Alvarez destroyed him absolutely everywhere. Vincente looked slow, and I mean, that's what you get when you put a guy in there on a win streak against someone who's lost 5 of their last 6.
Right.
I think that Alvarez kind of took pity on him and just didn't finish him because there was such a mismatch between their skills.
Yeah, the first 2 rounds were fun to watch. It feels like the 3rd round, Alvarez got him on the ground and didn't really do anything. It was,
he held him in a triangle that wasn't able to sink in.
Right. I'm usually not a fan of standing up grappling exchanges because if you can't get out of the grappling exchange, I don't think that the ref should bail you out. But this is one of those few situations where I'm like, come on, you're just stalling. Like, you're intentionally stalling at this point. Talk about Alvarez. Like, Alvarez, like, he had him in a reverse mounted triangle. So it was like a sprawl position where he's like on top of him, like head down, like his face is facing his back, and he has him in a triangle in that position. And he wasn't really doing hardly anything. He wasn't attempting any vicious ground and pound. He wasn't attempting any submission holds or anything like that. He was just kind of like pitter-patter just a little bit. Yeah, and leaning on the cage and just running down the clock. I'm like, come on, man. Like, the first 2 rounds were actually pretty exciting. There was one 10-9 round and one 10-8 round. So the final score was 30-26 by all 3 judges. That 3rd round, it was just, yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. It was not the most fun 3rd round. The first 2 are all right. There's not really a whole lot else to say about this fight. Alvarez just dominated.
Yep, a horrible mismatch.
Horrible mismatch. And speaking of domination, this next round, these heavyweights, Mario Pinto versus Jonata Diniz. Probably butchered these names as always. Did you catch the heavyweight fight?
Yes, of course. You know, I've been waiting for the return of the heavyweight dominance to the game. So I'm watching every heavyweight fight with bated breath. And Pinto definitely earned a top 15 opponent with this performance.
Dude, when I was watching this fight, 'cause I was kind of playing on my phone whenever this fight was starting, so I didn't catch what weight class they're in. And when the fight started and they were bouncing around and moving and jockeying for position against each other. And I was keeping my eyes on Pinto because he was undefeated. And he was moving around so effortlessly and so quickly that I thought to myself, okay, looking at his size, he's pretty big, but he's moving pretty fast, so he can't be heavyweight. So this must be a light heavyweight match. And then when it came up with their names and it's like heavyweight bout, I'm like, wait, these are heavyweights? This guy Pinto moves way too fast and way too smoothly for a heavyweight. And Diniz,
for 255, and he's low on body fat. He is fast like Aspinall.
He did not look like a 255-pound person, dude. He was gliding across that ring. And Diniz is no slouch either. The dude was 11-1 going to this match, so now he's 11-2. But this guy had
9-2.
I'm sorry, yeah. Yeah, 11 overall. I was looking at the wrong number. Yes, 9-2. He's 9-1. So, his record's not bad either. And he has 7 knockout wins, so this is a dangerous opponent himself. But Pinto just made him look like an amateur, dude. He took him down. And I really want to talk about the first round, which actually made it to the end, so they end up going to the second round. That first round, Pinto got Diniz down, was working a few different submission attempts of ground and pound. He has some really good takedowns and judo. It looked like he had some he had like a Uchimata in there, like a foot sweep. He had a shoot takedown, like a wrestling style takedown. So he had a nice mix of takedown skills. And he also has apparently a pretty decent submission game. I don't have his records up in front of me, but he ended up getting Diniz in a mounted crucifix, like a topside crucifix, kind of like Hamza Chimaev had Drix du Plessis in. And it started working some really nasty elbows and punches, just bludgeoning Diniz. And then eventually he ends up securing Deniz's arm and gets him an Americana, also known as a key lock. And he had that thing cranked deep. Now, as someone who trains jiu-jitsu myself, I know that joint does not bend all that far. You move it a good, 5 or 6 inches for most people, like rotating the wrist down and elbow up. You go that far, you start getting at the limit of the range of motion, and it starts to hurt really bad. This dude had his arm almost like parallel in the opposite direction, and Diniz was still not tapping. I'm looking at the TV squirming because I know if that would have been me in that position, my shoulder would have been ripped off the bone. my upper arm would have probably broken in 2 or 3 places because I know I don't have that kind of range of motion. So I was kind of impressed that Denise was limber enough to be able to take an Americana that deep. He was able to fight out of it, but I don't know how you not tap when it was nasty looking, but he survived, at least for the first round. Second round, Pinto again just takes him down, just lays on him with the ground and pound. Towards the end of the second round, 4 minutes 10 seconds, they eventually called off TKO. He was landing some really ugly punches, really ugly elbows, just bloodied up Denise's forehead. Ground and pound TKO finish.
Yeah, the thing that really impressed me about Pinto is that whenever he was punching, he was dealing damage, and he never looked like he was putting any effort behind the punches. Right. They looked so lazy, and then when they hit, it was like kaplow.
Yeah, this was a brutal performance on Pinto's part, and this guy's undefeated, shows to have some submission skills at least, some good takedowns, some really nasty ground and pound, a lot of power, and very quick for a heavyweight. This is someone you definitely need to keep your eye on. Mario Pinto. Definitely going to be looking for him later in upcoming cards because heavyweight needs some new blood. We have a new champion. We don't have any more drama holding back the title picture. We're ready to get this division moving again. We need some good, strong, young blood, and people like this is what we need. So let's keep an eye on Mario Pinto. Let's see what is in store for him in his future. Hopefully he makes big waves in the heavyweight division.
I'd like to see Pinto go up against Tuivasa. I think that's a good matchup for his next one.
I think he would steamroll Tuivasa.
Yeah, but Tuivasa's ranked 11. If we let him jump any higher than that, people are going to start calling rigged.
I have no idea how he's ranked, period, but I digress.
All right, what do we got next?
So, the very first fight on this main card, first name Kaan, last name Ofli, Kaan Offley. Sound good?
Gonna fly. Cano fly.
Khan Offley.
Canafil?
I think it's Kaan Offley. Again, I'm usually distracted whenever they're announcing their name, so I didn't catch how they pronounced it. But as a person who loves jiu-jitsu, this was very exciting for me to watch. Going against Ricardo Ramos. I even butcher the easy names. Listen to me. That's going to be like the shtick of the ground and pound cast. You have Vince who butchers everyone's names, whether they're difficult to pronounce or not. So Kaan Offley versus Ricardo Ramos. Match starts off pretty quickly, goes to the ground. These two apparently both have jiu-jitsu backgrounds. Ricardo
and
Ramos.
That knee bar.
That's what I was going to get to.
That knee bar was just making me cringe.
Ramos had Offley in a deep knee bar. It was a knee bar that was so deep it almost started to look like it was going to turn into a banana split, which is another submission where instead of attacking the knee, you keep going up and it's more of like a hip attack, right? He had it that deep and was kind of folding this dude in half over himself. And somehow Offley was able to withstand it and survive and change position to alleviate the pressure at least a little bit. I've been putting knee bars. They suck. They suck so bad. They're one of the worst submissions to get put in my opinion at least. And it could be because like my knees are screwed up, but it's one like when you feel it, you're like, this sucks. Like I want out of this immediately. And
I've never been in a knee bar, but I've had knee surgery, and I can only imagine being put in a position that flexes your leg to the point where a little bit more will require surgery.
Right. But Offley was able to survive, and then Ramos ends up giving up on the knee bar, ends up turning into a toe hold, and starts attacking a toe hold. So this guy apparently just loves his leg locks, and he's just going to town. I was like, he's going to find a leg lock in this Offley guy at some point. Like he is just he was transitioning from, I think when he went to the ground, I think maybe he started trying to set up like it looked like maybe a heel hook, and then he turns to a knee bar. He's attacking a knee bar, and he's holding that knee bar for a good while. And then he switches it up to a toe hold. He's going for the toe hold. And then Offley is able to finally get his leg free. He ends up spinning over, going out the back door, ends up taking the back, secures a body lock, ends up turning around the submission attack back onto Ramos, and wins by rear naked choke. It was just This match was like 90% jiu-jitsu. There was very few punches thrown. There was like a couple of punches to like set up a few openings, but this is mostly just a grappling exchange. And I love seeing that kind of stuff. I love seeing where you have two guys that really know jiu-jitsu going back and forth. When I was like thinking to myself, Ramos is about to have this dude's leg on his wall as a trophy, and Offley's able to come back, get out of the bad position, take the back, and then win by a rear naked choke. That was just very impressive, and I want to see more of this. I want to see more of these type of grappling exchanges.
This is the kind of thing that fans don't complain about. A high-level jiu-jitsu match that is constantly working and moving from one person to the other to see who can get to advantage.
Right.
What people complain about is when the work stops and it just becomes plain grappling. I love seeing high-level jiu-jitsu guys go after it and really try to finish the other one. It's entertaining as all get out.
Right. So that was basically the main card. We have a lot of matches that happened on the undercard. We didn't watch all of them. We had all of them ended in some type of way that was a finish, with the exception of one. There's one decision on the undercard. We had 3 submissions and 3 KO TKOs. So it was a fun set of fights.
One of those TKOs has a asterisk next to it, and that's Lucas Almeida versus Michael Aswell. Almeida, before the fight, announced that he had a broken hand, and it was obvious whenever he was fighting that he has a broken hand. So Dana's got to do something about this stuff where it's known ahead of time that guys are injured and they still let them in the cage. They're talking about Ankh from last week going in there with broken ribs, and people saw him getting injections in his ribs ahead of time. That's just not acceptable to put somebody in that kind of physical risk if they literally have broken bones, and an x-ray would find it every time.
Right. It kind of makes me question, like, what kind of standards they have when it comes to being medically cleared, you know? I understand that at the end of the day, fighters, like, they want to fight, and sometimes they're going to push through. It's really rare that a fighter fights at 100%. A lot of them will say, this is the best camp I've ever had, I'm at 100%, but as someone who trains myself, it's really rare that you're really going 100%. You're probably always going to have like a little lingering something, because it's hard on the body. Not just the fights, but the training is hard on the body. But whenever you come in with broken bones, broken hand, broken ribs, you know, it makes you question, you know, what kind of standards are in place or what should be in place when it comes to being cleared to fight.
How seriously are they really taking fighters' safety if they're allowing them to go into the octagon with broken bones? And what are they expecting for a show for us fans? I'm not looking for my fighters to go out there and end up hurt. I don't mind seeing someone knocked out or submitted, but I hate seeing someone get an arm snapped or something.
Yeah.
You know, a broken orbital doesn't make my fight night feel any better to see a fighter go down. But, you know, turning off their lights is fine.
Until it's happened so many times you start getting CTE, but that's another topic.
Yeah, I like, that's when you start talking about getting into real damage again.
Right. So that's basically it for this UFC fight night. We have another fight night next week.
And then the big one.
Yes. Let's first talk about the fight night next week. So I will not be available next week for this card. I won't be able to watch the fights, or at least won't be able to watch them live. And I will not be available for the podcast. So I'm going to try to see if Rick and Roy could fill in and they could do the podcast. This will be the first time that those two work together without me. So I'm going to give them the reins, and I expect them to give us a very fun episode when they talk about UFC Fight Night in Canada, Vancouver, Canada. It is RDR versus Allen. Allen, a local to us, Louisiana, Brendan Allen. He wasn't born here, and I know he trains out of Florida, but he lives about an hour and a half away from us, and he's going against Renier de Ridder. This should be a pretty
RDR. That's not the fight that I'm most excited about, though.
Let me guess. I'm looking at the card right now. You're excited for Kevin Holland versus Mike Malott.
Absolutely. Kevin Holland's my dude. I follow Kevin Holland on YouTube. He is the dude. Him and Wonder Boy are like my two favorites.
Hey, do you remember that one fight that Kevin Holland in that was very, very boring?
No.
Exactly, because it's never happened.
Yeah, Kevin Holland might make some dumb decisions, but they're not like fight IQ decisions. They're like, I'm going to go out there and punch with this guy instead of wrestling because I made a choice.
I saw a really funny video compilation of him talking during fights, like middle fight, and he's kind of having some banter. He's not being like super rude or anything. He's just kind of being silly and funny. And I saw one of the funniest comments I've ever seen before. I can't remember if it was on Facebook or YouTube, but I was reading the comments talking about Kevin Holland talking about all of his talking during the fights. And they said this is the same type of stuff that Spider-Man villains have to listen to every day.
I love it.
I was like, that's actually pretty accurate. You know, there's another fight that should be pretty fun on here. I don't know who the second guy is in the fight, but I know the first guy, Cheeto Marlon Vera, who always puts on fun fights, is going to be one fight before the Kevin Holland fight.
Yeah.
Going against Aman
Zahabi.
Zahabi. Wait, hold on. I have watched him fight. I remember that name, Zahabi. That first name. That's tricky.
Ayman Zahabi.
13-2. Listen when he fought. Oh, yeah, I remember when he fought Aldo. I remember that fight. I watched that one, UFC 315, earlier this year. So, yeah, I have seen him fight. And he's going against Vera, and Vera always puts on fun fights. So, yeah, this should be a pretty fun fight card. The whole card doesn't have a whole lot of big names, just a handful. But we've seen plenty of cards before where even if they're names you don't know, doesn't mean that they can't put on fun fights. So, never know. Tune in and might be fireworks. And then after that, it's going to be probably the last big card of the year. And I think we have two more big cards. But this is probably the biggest remaining.
There's one more name on the card that I know, and that's Cody Gibson.
Well, I know a few other ones. Manon Fiorot, Matt Frivola. I remember when Matt Frivola fought Benoit Saint-Denis. It was a military veteran versus military veteran on a night where they're doing like a event for the troops or something like that. And Saint-Denis just whooped Frivola's ass, which broke my heart because I'm an American military veteran and Frivola's an American military veteran. And so we saw our guy get his butt whooped by the French military veteran, Benoit Saint-Denis. So I remember Frivola, Charles Jourdain, I've seen him fight. I'm looking at the card now. The rest of these, I don't know. Drew Dober, I know that name. So there's a handful of names, but I think the biggest names are RDR, Brendan Allen, Kevin Holland, Cheeto Vera. So those are the ones you're tuning in for. Cody Gibson, I've seen him fight before too. But I can't remember the last time I saw him fight. But anyway, yeah, it should be a pretty fun fight card.
Yeah, it's going to be all right. It's going to have the potential for a lot of action.
It's going to be a nice warm-up for the event the following week. We will talk at great length about that card when it happens. But that's another topic.
A card with multiple heavyweight fights. And by multiple, I mean three. It's time to get that division moving.
We need it. We need it so bad. You got the title
Tom
fight.
Aspinall on there. I'm still trying to rationalize how Cyril Gane has a chance at this, but I am predicting that Gane comes out and starts the fight trying for a double leg just to prove the haters wrong.
That's not happening. I'm sorry.
It's my prediction. Nostradamus has said it. There will be a double leg from Gane during that fight.
It's not going to happen. I will bet you a full paycheck that's not going to happen.
All right, you're on.
You heard it here first on the Ground and Pound cast.
Gane, double leg, just to prove the haters wrong.
So the big question I have, I don't want to talk too much on that because it would be for another episode, but how, if Tom Aspinall wins, how is he going to win? How long is it going to take him? And how's that going to change his perspective on being the rightful king of that division? There's a lot on the line for that fight, but I think that needs to be reserved for another episode. When we get a little bit closer to it. There's a lot of pride and a lot of stock on the line for the heavyweight division with that fight.
Yes.
It's a very important fight. As far as like how exciting the fight's going to be, I'm sure it'll be a fun fight. I don't know if it's going to be like fight of the night. I don't think it's going to be a barn burner. But when it comes to what it means to the division, I think it's one of the most important fights of the year. I truly mean that.
Yes. If Gane wins it, he better have the longest title reign of anybody that's been active in history.
If he wins, again, that's a rabbit hole I don't quite want to go too far into right now, but if he wins, I think it's going to just drop the stock of the heavyweight division, because you're going to have this dark cloud. You're going to have all of the John Jones fans. Well, John Jones whooped him in like less than 2 minutes.
The problem is your true champion, your lineal champion was Francis.
Right, and he's still lineal champion.
And then John wouldn't fight Francis because he was putting on size. And then it was a contract dispute where he was asking for ridiculous money. Even Dana White called him out on ridiculous demands to fight Francis. And then he agrees to, after Francis is gone, he sees a man in Cyril who has no ground game whatsoever, no wrestling defense, and he realizes, I can take this guy down. After that, what's he do? He stalls for a year and says, let me fight the washed-up Stipe. And then I'm going to fight Tom Aspinall, except for I have an injury. And then I'm going to fight Tom Aspinall if you give me $30 million. And then $30 million isn't enough. I'm not going to fight. I'm retired. Oh, I'm back. The White House.
Yeah.
It's just a dramatic saga.
Yeah, talking about too much to get my blood pressure up. And that's why I'm saying that this fight is one of the most important fights. Tom Aspinall not only needs to win, but he needs to win quickly and dominantly, very decisively. Because if not, and what I hate is there's a lot of fans out there who just don't seem to realize, just because fighter A beats fighter B faster than fighter C could beat him doesn't mean that he's better than C, right? You look at someone like George St. Pierre, who is a fantastic fighter, one of the greatest of all time. He's on the Mount Rushmore of almost everybody that follows MMA, and he has a ton of decision wins because it's a different fighting style. Granted, Tom Aspinall has a finishing fighting style, unlike GSP, but the point remains, just because if you and I fight the same person, just because I beat him faster than you did, doesn't mean that I'm automatically better than you. But regardless of all that, you still have the John Jones cult that is going to see it that way. So if Tom Aspinall, if he doesn't win, that's just even worse. It's going to be disastrous. But let's say he does win, but it takes him longer. Let's say it takes him 2-3 rounds. Let's say it takes him 3 minutes, as opposed to was like a minute and a half or 2 minutes or whatever it was that John Jones took. If it takes him longer, it's going to be, see, there you go. It took him longer. That proves that he's not better than John Jones. John Jones is the rightful champ. This dude's just a paper champion, and we're never going to hear the end of it. That's why I need him. We need him as heavyweight fans, heavyweight division UFC fans. We need Tom Aspinall to win quickly and decisively, just to shut everyone up. They probably still won't shut up, but it's going to give them more room to not shut up if Gane wins, or it takes him too long, or if it's not one-sided enough or anything like that.
Well, the thing is, with this long between the last fight to this fight, Gane's had an opportunity to work tirelessly to close the hole in his game. So Tom can't just go in there and exploit the same loophole that John did to get a win.
Exactly.
He actually has to figure out a new way to beat him on his feet in the same amount of time. So, because there's no tape on what Gane's capable of now or how he's changed his fight style other than to include a double leg.
Yeah, I still say it's not happening.
Totally happening. I'm predicting it. You will look back on this day and go, dang, he really is prophetic.
No. Tom Aspinall's grappling's way too good. I do not see him getting double-legged by the likes of Gane, a guy who got out-wrestled.
I'm not saying it's going to work. I'm not saying it's going to work. I'm just saying he's going to go for it.
Going for it and actually landing it are two different things. Do you think he's going to land the double leg? Actually take Tom down, not just shoot it.
50-50 chance, but there's 100% chance that he's going to shoot it.
I wonder if it's going to be like Uncle Live shoot, where he's getting outworked on the feet, and he's like, "Oh no, I need to shoot," and
No,
forgetting that.
Ankalaev denied his Dagestani roots on that and went for a single leg. It's got to be the double leg.
Right. But I wonder if it's still going to be the same situation where it's going to be like he's going to shoot.
He's getting knocked out
because he's getting
like,
outstruck.
Oh, no.
Right. And I've seen that a lot before where people are getting outstruck, and it's like what Nate Diaz said it. Oh, so you're a wrestler now, famous phrase he had where he's teeing off on someone and they shoot on him. If he does shoot, it's not going to work out well for him because a lot of people forget how good Tom Aspinall's ground game is.
Yeah. I was watching Tom talk one day on his YouTube channel, and he said, when I first started, I did a lot of jiu-jitsu, and then one day I knocked someone out and realized this is way easier.
Yeah. Well, when he moves that fast and has that reach, it just works out well for him. But, I mean, he is a very high-level black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he has a whopping 3 submission wins, which doesn't sound like a ton, but it's because at heavyweight.
Has he got anybody in his career that he hasn't finished, though? Has he ever gone 3 rounds?
No, he's never gone to decision his entire career, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
If I'm not mistaken. Let me double check that. No, he's never seen a judge decision his entire career.
Yeah, his average fight time is like 2 minutes and 5 seconds. It's insane.
If that high. I know in the UFC, maybe you're talking about his overall career average. In the UFC, his longest fight was
went to second round.
Went to second round. All the rest were first round.
Yep.
Yeah, so maybe it could be 2 minutes something.
Wasn't it Pavlovich you went to the second round with?
No, it was Andrei Arlovsky, and then he finished him off by a rear naked choke. Arlovsky, who has a really good submission game himself, Tom Aspinall finished him by rear naked choke.
But we're not supposed to talk about this card. We've got too many opinions that need to wait till a future pound cast.
It's you get me on a roll talking about this one,
Well, we've just been waiting for the heavyweight division to come back for so long.
Yeah, see, the heavyweight division is supposed to be like whoever's on top of the heavyweight division is supposed to be the toughest person in the world because you talk about pound for pound,
the baddest man on the planet.
Right. Pound for pound is like, if everyone's the equal size, this would be the toughest. But heavyweight takes that out. It's like, who really is the toughest? Who is the toughest person on the entire planet? And that is supposed to be who is the heavyweight champion, the lineal heavyweight champion. I know that he's not here because Ngannou is technically the lineal champion, but in most people's eyes, the UFC heavyweight champion is supposed to be the baddest man on the planet. So whenever you have the division being held up in a very shallow division where the previous champion avoids the number one contender and then vacates and leaves, and then you have all the fans of this guy saying that whoever is champ after him is just a paper champion, none of it counts. So much stock has been removed from this division. We have to get it moving again. We have to get someone who is respected as champion and actually put some prestige behind the title once again. It's gone way too long. Is being overlooked.
I personally believe that when the belt is consistently on the line every few months, that the talent will come to the heavyweight division. Because, can you imagine how many light heavyweights have avoided going to heavyweight just because there's no title on the line? I know Poatan can't be happy cutting that much.
Right.
We would have more talent in heavyweight if there was something for the heavyweights to fight for. And with Tom up there will be. If Gon wins it, I don't really know if he's going to be that active.
If Aspinall defends, I wonder how many title defenses he's going to get. Because remember, the record in UFC at least is 3. Only 3 held by Stipe Miocic. Some people will argue and say he already has 1 because his interim title defense against Curtis Blades should be counted as 1. But on paper, it won't be. So I wonder how many defenses he'll get. Because if he gets a whole bunch, if he beats Gon quickly and decisively and goes on a nice tear where he gets a good bit of defenses, then people are going to have to shut up or they're going to start looking like an idiot trying to say that he's just a paper champion and blah, blah.
I say at 4, you can't deny that he's the best to ever do it. Yeah. At heavyweight, you get to 4, you're pretty dominant. And he's already strapped up more than that in this last streak.
Right. Oh, you mean just 4 wins total, or
4 defenses.
Well, I mean, the record's 3. So if you get 1 defense, you're better than most. You get 2 defenses, you're like in the elite. You get 3 defenses, you're tied for the record.
And at 4, we have to admit he's the GOAT, regardless of what the competition looked like at other eras.
I agree. But anyway, I think that's all we have for this episode. Not a whole lot else to talk about. You got anything else you want to talk about? This card, next card, Tom Aspinall, UFC 321, Fight Night this week, Fight Night next week. Anything else?
Tons. But it's all on the Aspinall gun card.
Yeah, that I think should be reserved.
Stay tuned.
See, next week will be 1 week before that event, so you and Rick could have your way with just talking about your predictions for that upcoming card. And then the following week, whenever I'm back, we all 3 reconvene, and we'll talk about the fallout of it. And I'll be sure to remind you that Ciryl Gane did not shoot the double leg.
It's happening. You're going to have to accept it. We're in a new era.
Yeah, that's one thing I'll never accept. And one other thing I'll never accept is that power slap is a valid form of combat sports.
No, but it's entertaining.
I disagree. I disagree with that more than I disagree with Ciryl Gane shooting a double leg. So, all right, well, that's all I got. So, make sure you guys tune in next week as Rick and Roy will be covering the next UFC Fight Night. They'll also be talking about the upcoming card after that, UFC 321. Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. So, thank you for joining us. Tune in next time. Tell everybody bye, Roy.
All right. Until next time, watch out for the double leg.